we can safely say, Your Excellencies, that Johannesburg has indeed been a success from the point of view of ensuring that we're able to build on the unity that was started as we went to Dakar. The focus of this particular summit was, of course, on ensuring that we're able to engage with our governments, our stakeholders, our development partners, in interpreting the important international agreements that impact on local government development into practical local actions that can take place as we interact with our communities and deliver services to our communities. In this regard, we sought to ensure that the agreements at the International Conference on Financing for Development, in particular paragraph 34 that focuses on financing and capacity building for local authorities, is incorporated into the agreements that we reach here to say how do we translate that into practical action and ensure that we interface and interact with our governments and development partners to take those decisions forward. Indeed, we also had the opportunity to look at the Sustainable Development Goals with a particular emphasis, for obvious reasons, on Goal 11, on sustainable cities, but also on all those goals that impact on our roles and functions as local authorities. We are cognizant of the fact that the world is meeting and many of our leaders would be joining the world in finalizing the much anticipated agreement in Paris on climate change, which we believe would also define a particular role for local authorities. Ours, therefore, is to move beyond the discussions and implement these programs that are agreed to at an international level. Beyond today, we have to engage with our governments and development partners to translate all these goals and intentions into practical implementation at a local level. We also welcome the Common Africa position as we prepare towards Habitat 3 and had the opportunity to interact with our governments with regards to elements that we think as local authorities could influence the Common Africa position as it develops. For we believe that we have a particular role to play. In many ways, we say in South Africa, local government in reality is where the rubber hits the road. The reality is that when we talk about sustainability in cities, when we talk about human settlements, when we talk about urbanization, when we talk about migration, when we talk about access to services, the responsibility lies with the local authority. It remains our duties to ensure that our people have access to water, sanitation, electricity, housing, and that we're able to facilitate local economic development. And indeed, Your Excellency, Honorable Ministers, we also reflected on the fact that we're an integral part of Vision 2063 for Africa. That as we talk about all these issues that impact on the work that we do, we should be able to partner with the African Union, with our own governments and development partners in following the agenda that has been set by our own leaders on the continent. We are therefore privileged and honored that the chairperson of the African Union Commission took time to spend with us as we close this important conference. We appreciate that this should be taxing on your schedule. This should be demanding on your schedule. For indeed, as you live here, We expect that you would be interacting with ministers and, of course, our heads of state that are coming here. We ourselves have been working on the basis that as we conclude today, as we reach agreements about what we do as local authorities, later this afternoon, we're literally handing over the baton to our ministers who would be discussing issues of cooperation between China and Africa. And indeed, tomorrow, our heads of state and the President of China would continue that agenda at the FOCAC Summit. Therefore, it is almost like literally as we walk out of here, we would be handing over the baton to ensure that development reaches all the peoples and the corners of Africa, and that they become the beneficiaries of the work that we do here in these conferences, that they become the true beneficiaries of the services that we provide to them, and that indeed we translate the narrative Africa is rising into reality. Thank you very much.
Now, the address by the President of UCLGA, Mayor Khalifa Sall, from the city of Dakar.
Madame Zuma, Excellence, Présidente de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Monsieur le ministre de la décentralisation ou de la gouvernance territoriale et des autorités traditionnelles, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs, Excellences les ambassadeurs, Mesdames et Messieurs les partenaires au développement, chères autorités coutumières et religieuses, chers collègues maires, chers partenaires, chers invités, chers membres de la société civile, Madame la Présidente, nous sommes très honorés et très heureux de vous avoir parmi nous aujourd'hui. Au terme de cette communion et de ce banquet de la décentralisation, c'est-à-dire de cette rencontre des peuples d'Afrique qui discutent de leur vécu quotidien et qui esquissent ensemble leurs perspectives et leur devenir. Votre présence est comme une adhésion, un soutien, une approbation. Nous vous en remercions très fortement et très sincèrement. Chers collègues, chers amis, nous voilà au terme de jours de débat, de discussion, pendant lesquels ce fut une sorte de communion, un rendez-vous du donner et du recevoir, où chacun a puisé dans ce qu'il a de plus profond et de plus sincère, à chercher à dire à l'autre comment nous pouvons être ensemble et comment être utiles à ceux qui nous ont fait confiance. C'est pour nous l'occasion, au nom de UCLGA, de féliciter et de remercier toutes les autorités municipales, locales d'Afrique du Sud, en particulier notre ami et frère Park Tau, maire de Johannesburg, et Magnoni, président de Salga, pour leur accueil, leur hospitalité et toutes les dispositions qu'ils ont prises afin que notre réunion puisse se dérouler dans de très bonnes conditions. Merci beaucoup, chers collègues. C'est l'occasion aussi de remercier les autorités nationales sud-africaines, le président Zuma, son gouvernement. Et vous me permettrez de faire une mention spéciale à Monsieur le ministre de la Gouvernance territoriale et des autorités traditionnelles, qui, de manière constante, permanente, régulière et très discrète, a été à notre côté durant tous ces jours. Il nous a soutenus, il nous a conseillés, il nous a encadrés sans que cela se sache. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le ministre. C'est cela qu'on attend des autorités nationales. Les autorités nationales ne sont pas en conflit avec les autorités locales. Nous sommes dans un même territoire que sont nos pays et nos États. Nous sommes tous légitimes. Les autorités nationales sont légitimes, les autorités locales sont légitimes. Nous servons les mêmes populations. C'est une coopération intelligente, c'est une entente dynamique qui nous permettront d'être efficaces. En tout cas, vous avez montré la voie dans tous vos discours. Puissions-nous, nous, élus locaux, comprendre ce message et cette attitude, et l'Afrique en sera fortement et principalement la bénéficiaire. Mesdames et messieurs, nous avons discuté. Quand nous venions ici, il y avait beaucoup d'appréhension, il faut le reconnaître. Il y avait beaucoup de passion. Il y avait même un peu de tension. Mais nous avons fait la preuve, en tant qu'élus locaux, la preuve de notre sens des responsabilités, de notre esprit de dépassement, nourri par l'élan de Marrakech, amplifié par ce qui s'est passé à Dakar, nous avons pu consolider ici à Jobourg et nous avons réussi. Félicitations à vous tous. Nous avons réussi à préserver l'unité de notre organisation. Nous avons surtout réussi à nous projeter en avant pour que le développement local puisse être le creuset, le vecteur du développement national. Madame la Présidente de la Commission, après l'Assemblée générale des Nations unies, après que l'Union africaine ait adopté son agenda 2063, après la tenue de la COP 21 que nous-mêmes nous allons prolonger à Paris, beaucoup d'espoir repose désormais sur les épaules de toutes les autorités. Il nous faut prendre en charge les aspirations et les besoins de nos populations. Construire l'Afrique de demain par ses populations, tel était le thème de notre 7e édition d'Africités. Seules les populations doivent bénéficier de ce que nous faisons, de nos politiques. Mais aujourd'hui, le paradigme que nous changeons, ces populations ne doivent pas être que de simples consommateurs ou de simples bénéficiaires. Elles devront être les vecteurs et les acteurs de ce développement. C'est de cette manière que nous comprenons l'ODD 11. La localisation des politiques publiques signifie que les autorités locales seront au cœur des processus de développement, mais signifie aussi que les populations devront être et les acteurs, et les vecteurs, et les bénéficiaires de ce développement. C'est pourquoi nous voudrions remercier ici très sincèrement les universitaires, les chercheurs, le secteur privé, la société civile, les autorités religieuses, tous les partenaires qui, chacun, dans ses capacités, en ses dispositions, en ses possibilités et opportunités, a apporté sa pierre dans le travail que nous avons fait. Et laissez-moi faire une mention spéciale à mon grand frère et ami qui a présidé notre structure technique et de réflexion, le professeur Alioune Sall. Il fut magnifique à tout point de vue. Il a montré que c'est une alliance de l'action et de l'intelligence qui va nous permettre d'être efficaces. Les autorités nationales et les autorités locales devront se lier avec les chercheurs et l'intellect pour construire durablement. En tout cas, nous en avons conscience. Mesdames et messieurs, nous avons réussi l'unité à Jobourg grâce au sens de dépassement et de responsabilité de chacun de nous. Puissions-nous ensemble poursuivre et consolider cet esprit pour que nous puissions efficacement contribuer au développement de notre continent. Je vous remercie de votre attention.
I'm now extremely honored to invite the President, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Madam Zuma.
Thank you very much. And may I just say a very respectful greeting to the panel on the table. I can't mention all of them, but maybe just to acknowledge and thank the Mayor of Johannesburg, since he is the host in this beautiful city of gold. And of course, the hosting minister and all the distinguished hosting minister, a friend of mine, known to me for a very long time, Minister Pravin Gordhan, and all the distinguished members at the table. I see even some old people I hadn't seen in a long time, Claire Short, and of course, the mayors that are here and all the researchers, everybody who's here. But let me just first apologize again for not being here at your opening, but I had to juggle. So I thought it was also important to be there to put our voice at the COP21, but I'm glad that I was able to come today. The reason I didn't want to speak at the beginning is because I wanted to have a sense of what has happened here, so that when I say something, at least it is with that knowledge from the people who were participating. First, let me just say I'm very happy that you talk about unity, because our founders, at the very beginning of founding our organization, but also the prior Pan-Africanists, very much stressed the question of unity. We all know that Kwame Nkrumah said, Africa must unite or perish. So that must be something that we hold dear in everything we do. But secondly, local government is at the cold face, really, of the improvement of people's lives. National government is very important, provincial or regional government is very important, but local government is at the cold face. And Agenda 2063 is really about how to get Africa to become a prosperous, integrated, peaceful continent, driven by its citizens and playing a dynamic role in the world. And there's no way we can achieve that without full involvement of local government. So everything that Agenda 2063 addresses has to be part and parcel of what local government does. The deputy minister there who welcomed me when I came reminded me that actually there is nothing that happens in a country that does not happen in a municipality, which is true, whether even the head of government, Pretoria, is in a municipality. Any big hospital or small hospital is in a municipality. any railway station is in a municipality, airport is in a municipality, so schools. So he reminded me something that is obvious but is often forgotten, that everything that happens, that we do, every infrastructure, eventually it is located in a municipality. So it shows how integrated municipality is to our lives. And of course, if we look at local government, it's about improving, delivering services to our people. Now, sometimes people think only of services in the cities. Yes, the cities are very important because besides, they are also hubs of economic growth. They are the face of our countries, our capitals, and so on. But for me, I grew up in part in the rural areas. So the municipality for me is important both at rural and at urban settings. And if we are to improve the lives of our people as local government, it means we must improve the lives of women across the country. Because having grown up, as I say, in part in the rural area, in part in a township, in the rural area, before going to school or after coming back from school, we had to go and fetch water from a distance. And sometimes when my back is painful, I think of those days when I was carrying 20 liters of water on my head as a young woman. When you think of something to cook with, it's usually, with very few exceptions, the women, whether there's electricity or not, women must make sure that there's fuel to cook, isn't it? The men here, with due respect, in the morning, they expect a cup of tea. They know there's no water in the house, there's no electricity in the house, but they expect a hot cup of tea. They expect a hot meal. So, if there is a woman who has to give birth, it helps if there is a road to the clinic or to the hospital in the rural areas. Schools, it helps if there is a bridge to go across from a river across the river to the school. So it helps if you have a house, but all these things tend to be responsibilities of women. And men are breadwinners, but today we are all breadwinners. But in reality, improvement of life has to be really geared towards women. Because once you gear the improvement of life towards women, you improve everybody's life. Because women do not just improve their own lives, they improve their family's life as a whole, they improve the community. And so local government must ensure that there are women in local government, but also that the programs, I was talking to one minister when I was still at Foreign Affairs from Colombia, and he told me something interesting. He said in Colombia, after some experience of giving people housing, free housing, they realized that the best thing is to give the title deed to the woman. And I said, why? Because here in South Africa, I don't think we do that. So I said, why did you do that? He said, no. When government gives housing to a family, it's to ensure that the kids have a proper roof, they have a safe house, and of course the women and their husband and wife. But primarily, you are giving it to ensure that the children are safe. And what they found in Colombia, I don't know whether it happens in other countries, but she said what they found was they were giving title deeds to men, and when the man doesn't like this woman anymore, he chases her and her children out of this house into the street, and of course brings somebody else to the house. But now the kids are out in the street, and the house is still there that the government had given free, but the kids are out in the street. So they decided, no, they must give the title deed to the woman, because the woman does not bring a man and chases out kids into the streets. Now, it's up to you to judge whether it happens in other places other than Colombia. I don't know whether it does, but that was the reason she gave for that. I'm just making a small example. And so, local government is critical for everybody, but more importantly for women and children. So, Agenda 2063, again, will not be achieved without local government, but will also not be achieved without the full involvement of women and young people. And when you look at Agenda 2063 anyway, everything that is there impacts on local government, whether it's the skills revolution, it impacts on local government. I was looking at statistics of how many town planners we have, and it's shocking. How many engineers, water engineers, all sorts of other high-level skills, but also lower-level skills. So when we talk about skills revolution, local government is very much impacted. When we talk about agriculture, modernizing agriculture, improving productivity, and also ensuring that we also process, cities and local government are very much involved, because Africa, though it's the least urbanized, is the fastest urbanizing, which means many more people would be in the cities. They still need to be fed, whether they've moved from rural to cities. So we have to ensure that there is enough food to feed. And of course, Africa's population is growing very fast. And we import more than $80 billion worth of food as a continent every year. And the president of Ghana recently in Malta in the migration meeting was saying if they produced 5 crops and were just self-sufficient as Ghana in those 5 crops, which include oil, rice, sugar, tomatoes, which are common things that are used every day. He was saying if they were to be self-sufficient in those, Ghana alone would save $1.5 billion every year. So that amount of money would be very useful at local government, in education, in all sorts of areas that are critical for our development. So agriculture is very important, but local government should concern itself because it has to feed people. People in the cities have to be fed. Infrastructure is very critical. It affects everybody but local government. Whether we're talking about energy, we know Africa is generating very little energy, actually. Local government is part of that. So all the priorities of Agenda 2063 impact very much on local government. So I hope one of these days, ministers and mayors, we can sit together and, in whichever setting you choose, to work out exactly what are the implications and what will local government do, but also to look at governance as a whole and the relationships between national, provincial, and local government, and how we empower local government to do more of what they should be doing and do it better. And some countries, the decentralization is also almost not there, which is very critical. Also for management of diversity, which sometimes leads to conflict, as decentralization is very important for that. So thank you very much for all the things you do as municipalities, as local government. We all rely on you, actually. When I go home from here, most of the things I need are supplied by local government. So thank you very much for what you do, but we are not doing enough in everything to accelerate the development of Africa. Not only local government, all of us need to do a lot more than what you are doing. But unity that you kept is important, and I hope that as you go forward, you will maintain it and see the continent as a continent. That we are also looking at how to improve the interaction amongst Africans across the continent. We are looking at how to have an African passport that can take you to any country on the continent. We have the privilege at the AU that we are already using that African passport, and we don't need visas in many of our countries when we use it. I think it's 1 or 2 that still require visas, and we have decided we will not visit those countries until they do not require visas. So, because we also want to just move away from these artificial separations of people. I saw one tweet which was very interesting from a young person. I'm not saying, you know, young people are always more advanced than us. It said, there are no illegal immigrants, there are illegal borders. That's how young people see it. But it's also possible to do that. Rwanda, I'm sure you all know that Rwanda has led the way. There is no African who's carrying an African passport from any country, who's carrying a passport from any African country, who needs to go and apply for a visa before they go to Rwanda. Not anymore. Can get onto the plane now and you'll get to Rwanda without a visa. Now, if Rwanda can do it when they are so small, and in fact, in Joburg here at the summit, in the ministerial segment, we asked them to give us their experience and the pros and cons. And it was very clear that there were more positives than negatives, much more. So this is one of the things we would like to do, to encourage that. There is work going on harmonization, on education, so that young people can get skills anywhere and they can work where their skills are needed on the continent as part of integration. But thank you very much. I know I was just supposed to greet you, but now I'm talking a lot. Thank you for all you do. Continue doing it, but do it faster, better, and so that we can achieve Agenda 2063 much faster. Other people ask, how do you put Agenda 2063 and the SDGs? Agenda 2063 is the same sustainable development, but it's Africa specific. Thank you.
I repeat it again and again. What an honor. What an honor. Chairperson, you were so vocal on women. I know this is the Women's Year of the African Union. And you are a strong advocate for women. And this organization will hear you. We have established a network of local elected women. We call it in French acronym REFELA. And this REFELA has established, elected its new president in the person of Madame Celestine Kecha-Cortez, Mayor of the city of Bangante in Cameroon. She is now the voice of the mayors of the continent, which are women, the voice of all local elected women. And she will be coming to you to have your blessing, to continue promoting women empowerment. We thank you for your support. Now comes the moment to humbly invite for his closing remark Minister Pravin. That will then end our proceedings.
The Chair of the AU Commission, my colleague and friend, Madame Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, fellow ministers, although there were too few of us here over the last few days, more need to attend these sessions, and deputy ministers, the newly appointed president of UCLGA, an old fellow but new now, Mayor Sal, our host, Mayor Parks Tau, Mr. Manioni and his colleagues in the Salga Executive, Your Excellencies, the mayors, and our honored traditional leaders, our development partners, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of President Zuma and my colleague, Minister Hadebe, it's a pleasure to